George Wythe Baylor was born on August 2, 1832, at Fort Gibson in Indian Territory. His childhood was marked by constant moving. In 1836, his family settled in Natchez, Mississippi, where his father passed away. In the years that followed, the Baylors moved repeatedly, returning to Fort Gibson, then on to Pine Bluff and Little Rock, Arkansas, before finally making their way back once more to Fort Gibson. In 1845, George headed to Texas to live with his brother John near LaGrange in a community known as Ross Prairie. He attended Rudersville College and, through the encouragement of his uncle, Judge R.E.B. Baylor, later enrolled at Baylor University in Independence, Texas. For a short stretch, he worked as a clerk in the U.S. Army's Commissary Department at the Alamo in San Antonio. Like many young men of his generation, he caught gold fever and set out for California in 1854. By 1856, he was in San Francisco and had joined the city's Vigilance Committee. Family letters suggest he neither found lasting work nor struck it rich in the gold fields. By the end of 1859, he had returned to Texas and was living with his brother in Weatherford. When the Civil War broke out, Baylor cast his lot with the Confederacy. He first served with his brother's Arizona Brigade and by late summer became aide-de-camp to General Albert Sidney Johnston. After the Battle of Shiloh, he went back to Texas and was elected colonel of the 2nd Cavalry Regiment of the Arizona Brigade. In 1864, during the Red River Campaign, he commanded a cavalry regiment and earned praise for his bravery in action. When the war ended, Baylor resumed his wandering ways, rarely settling in one place for long. In September 1879, he was commissioned as a lieutenant in the Texas Rangers and assigned to take command of a ranger detachment in El Paso. Fluent in Spanish and well acquainted with many prominent citizens on both sides of the border, Baylor helped calm the lingering bitterness left behind by the Salt War troubles. Before long, he found himself dealing with Apache raids that threatened settlements across the region. He relied on experienced local guides and cooperated closely with Mexican officials south of the Rio Grande. One of his most notable achievements came in January 1881. For weeks, the U.S. 10th Cavalry and the Rangers had been chasing the Apache leader Victorio and his followers. That same month, a small group of Apaches attacked a stagecoach in Quitman Canyon. Picking up the trail, Baylor and his Rangers followed signs along the Rio Grande into Mexico, recovering stolen items along the way. The trail eventually looped back into Texas, where they discovered a recently abandoned camp. Tracking the band into the Eagle Mountains, they found another campsite only hours old. At Eagle Springs, Baylor's men joined forces with Rangers from Lieutenant Neville's company. After further pursuit, they finally located the Apache camp. A brief but sharp fight broke out on the morning of January 29, 1881. Though the clash was minor in scale, it has often been remembered as the last Indian battle fought on Texas soil. Baylor was made captain of Company A in 1882. His company was dissolved 3 years later due to budget cuts. After leaving Ranger service, he was elected from El Paso to the Texas House of Representatives and later served for several years as clerk of the district and circuit courts. George Wythe Baylor died on March 17, 1916, in San Antonio. He was laid to rest in the Confederate cemetery there. In recognition of his service, he was named one of the original inductees into the Texas Ranger Hall of Fame on February 6, 1976.